Now that you have your table templates together, I'm going to provide you with the results that you will actually include in terms of numbers in those tables to create your tables for the paper. So there's two documents you're going to need to download from Canvas in order to do this. The first document is a Word document that is titled Stata Output. This is the output from the statistical software showing the results. First off, for the descriptive statistics of the participant demographics, this is the information you'll need for Table 1. And then below this, I've got another section that's labeled logistic regressions. Those are the results that are going to go into your Table 2 for the results of your logistic regression analyses. There's also a second document titled BRFSS Codebook. This is the document you're going to need in order to know which variables in this Word document, what they actually are. So for example, the first result you have here is for this Health Plan 1 variable. So to know what variable that is, you're going to need to open up that BRFSS Codebook, and you're going to need to scroll over to the variable Health Plan 1. So you can see here, Health Plan 1, this is the adults who had some form of health insurance. So basically whether or not someone has health insurance. The zeros are coded as those who don't have any health insurance, and the ones are coded as those who do have health insurance. So you'll see here, this is the variable name, and when you look at the results here, you'll see the zeros are right here. Those are people that don't have health insurance, and the ones are people that do have health insurance. So all of the variables in this Word document, you can find them in this Excel document in terms of what they actually mean, and then also what the coding means. So all of the variables are going to be coded in numerical value. You'll need to cross-reference with this Excel document and the Word document to know what you're actually looking at in terms of the statistical output. So let's go through this Word document and look at our statistical outputs. And I want to make sure you understand what it is you're looking at in terms of what numbers you're going to include in your tables. So let's start off with the descriptive statistics of the participant demographics. This is the information that's going to go in your Table 1. So on this side of the screen, I have the Table 1 from the example paper that I've given you. And you'll see that you've got your overall in your sample, the percent and the N, according to these different demographic variables. So we'll use sex as an example. You've got in the overall sample, 50.19% of respondents were male, and the actual count was 7,058. 49.81% of the respondents were female, and the overall count is 7,757. Now we can look at that across these rows. So across this row for males, what we see is among males, 3.71 were denied insurance. They had the outcome of interest, and 248 is the count, so the number of males that were denied insurance, versus this column over here, which shows that 96.29% of males were never denied insurance, and the actual count there is 6,810, so 6,810 males were never denied insurance. Then you would also interpret this for the females. So you need to get the overall percent, the N, and then you also need this information across these rows. You need the percent and then the N for each of these values here. So I've given you this information for our study in this Word document. I've got some comments on here to show you some examples, and then the rest of the output is really up to you to interpret. So let's start with this first output. This first output is looking at the overall weighted percentages. Again, remember we're using weighted percentages because BRFSS uses weighting. It's a complex sample design. So it's not just a raw percentage that's calculated by taking one number divided by a total. It actually uses survey weights, which have been programmed into the statistical software. So this output here gives us our overall weighted percentage. So this is going to be the overall percentage that you would report for these here. So if we're looking at having health insurance, we would say that for the overall sample, 18.55% of individuals didn't have health insurance. These are the zeros. And 81.45% did have health insurance. These are the ones. You would then, assuming this was the health insurance variable, you would have those values filled out here for those percents. Now, if you scroll down, the next output you have here for this health plan variable is looking at that health plan, health insurance variable broken out by the outcome variable, which is having a quit attempt or attempting to quit smoking. So this data here in these cells, these are the row unweighted counts by the outcome. So remember, if you look at this sex variable here, we have the row information for males here according to this outcome variable. So what we're saying here is that among those without health insurance, 12,677 individuals, the N or the count, did not have a quit attempt. And among those without health insurance, 16,874 individuals did have a quit attempt. And then below that, we've got those with health insurance. So among those with health insurance, 78,594 didn't have a quit attempt. These are the zeros. While among those with health insurance, 101,549 did have a quit attempt. They did attempt to quit smoking. So these are our row unweighted counts. These are our N's. These are the values that you see here, the row N. These will go in the parentheses according to the values of your demographic variable. The next one, the last output here, there should be 3 outputs per variable. The next one you'll see here is the that health insurance variable by the outcome, but it's going to have the row percents. So up here we had the actual counts. When you move down here, this output is going to show you those weighted counts for the rows. So just like in this example, you've got these weighted percentages here. So among males, 3.71% were denied insurance, while 96.29% were never denied. If you come down here, among those without health insurance, 40.91% did not try to quit smoking, and 59.09% did try to quit smoking. And then you have that by those with health insurance. So among those with health insurance, 40.95 did not attempt to quit smoking, and 59.05 did try an attempt to quit smoking. So again, these are your weighted counts. You'll want to put these in these row categories. And then another thing I want to point out, this last output actually is your chi-square test. So remember, we've got categorical variables. We're seeing if there's an association between them. So to do that, we would run a chi-square test. In this example paper, this p-value is for the chi-square test, looking to see, is there an association between sex and whether or not someone was denied insurance. So this p-value here is the result of that. This p-value would then go into this p-value right up here. And remember, anything above 0.05 is considered to not be statistically significant. So this is the first variable. This is the health insurance variable. You've got the output for all of the other important variables that are going in your table 1. So use this first one, look at these comments and use this as your example, and then you can interpret and fill in the numbers in the table 1 for all the other variables you've been given. One thing I do want to note is that the race variable, there were originally, I think, 7 categories. These have been collapsed into a smaller number of categories. So make sure you look at that code book to see what those new categories are. Some of those categories had just numbers that were too small in some of the cells, so we did have to collapse some of those. So please refer to the code book. You'll need to update that variable on the left side of your table 1. After you finished your table 1, you'll want to go on to the results for table 2. Your table 2 should display the results of your logistic regression models. So for your table 2, this is showing the results of the logistic regression for the association between having a personal health care provider and attempting to quit smoking. You can see what's included in this model by looking up here. This is a logistic regression. Our outcome is attempting to quit smoking, and our independent variable of interest is having a personal healthcare provider. And what you can see is the output here. So these are your odds ratios, these are your p-values, and these are your 95% confidence intervals. So to interpret this, remember, we have values of 0, 1, 2, and 7 for this pers.doc2_2 variable. This is having a personal healthcare provider. And what this is saying is that the zeros, which don't appear on this output, they don't appear on this output because that's the reference group. That's the unexposed group. So we're considering this 1, the 2s, and the 7s. Those are going to be the different exposure groups we're looking at in comparison to the unexposed, the not having a personal healthcare provider. So the way we would interpret this is this first one, compared to those who don't have a personal healthcare provider, those who have one personal healthcare provider, those who are in the 1 value, the odds ratio for having a quit attempt is 1.11 with a p-value of 0.00 and a 95% confidence interval of 1.07 and 1.16. So the next row down is compared to those who do not have a personal healthcare provider. Those with more than 1 healthcare provider, the odds of attempting to quit smoking are 1.25. The p-value is 0.00, and the 95% confidence interval is 1.62 to 1.35. And then you've got, lastly, those who don't know or they're not sure if they have a personal healthcare provider. So compared to those who don't have one, those who aren't sure if they have one have an odds ratio of 1.27 in terms of attempting to quit. And the p-value is 0.177, and the confidence interval is listed here. It says 0.896, and then the 1.81. So these are the results of your unadjusted logistic regression. If you scroll down, you also have the results of your adjusted logistic regression. So here it's the same analysis. However, this logistic regression for the association between having a personal healthcare provider and attempting to quit smoking, this has now been adjusted for these variables here. So you can see it's been adjusted for having depression, for race, for age, for income, education, employment, and sex. So now these are your new adjusted results for this having a personal healthcare provider variable. So you'll want to report those, and then you can also, if you want to, you can report the results for all of these variables here as well, similar to how this table is set up. You've also got the results of the logistic regression model looking also at time since someone had their last checkup and attempting to quit smoking. So if you look at this output here, what you can see is similar to what we did above. Remember, the 0 isn't showing up, so your reference or your unexposed is those who have never had a visit for a routine checkup. And then we're looking at these exposed groups of having a checkup within the past 12 months, 1 year but less than 2 years ago for the 2s. The 3s are going to be 2 years but less than 5 years ago, and the 4s are going to be 5 or more years ago. So that's it. Please let me know if you have any questions. If you do want some help, I'm happy to help you with filling out this table. your two tables, but all the information you need is in this Word document here. Again, please feel free to refer back to the tables 1 and 2 in this example paper, and you'll also need that Excel document as your guide in terms of your code book to know what the variables mean.